Today, I'm going to explain the movie Fighter in the Wind, released in the year 2004. The movie opens up in Japan in the year 1945. Choi Bai-dal dreams of being a fighter plane pilot and tries to enroll into the Air Force of Japan. On his way home, he encounters a Korean thug named Chun-bae, who tries to steal his money, disguising himself as an undercover police officer. However, Choi soon finds out his real identity and attacks him. Later, it's shown that Choi and Chun-bae are in a truck which is going to the Air Force training camp. Chun-bae tries to get away from the truck but is forced to get in when he is chased by some gangsters. In the next scene, it's shown that Choi and other Koreans are tied up to a pole and are being tortured. Kato, the commander-in-chief of the camp, arrives there and his men start misbehaving with the Koreans. Surprisingly, Kato orders one of his men to untie the Koreans and set them free. As soon as the Koreans are untied, one of them belittles Kato and cusses at him. Upon hearing this, Kato challenges Choi to a fight with him and tells him that if he defeats him, all of the Koreans will be set free. Choi starts fighting with the commander using an old Korean fighting skill called Taekyon, but gets defeated easily. Luckily, before Kato can kill him, an American fighter plane attacks at the base and the Koreans are able to flee, saving their lives. Afterwards, Choi starts helping Chun-bae run his small shop in the market of Tokyo. When everything is going fine, a local gangster named Yakuza and his men arrive at Chun-bae's stall and ask for some money. Chun-bae refuses their request and in turn gets beaten by the group severely. Upon seeing this, Choi intervenes and tries to save his friend. He fights with the gangsters alone until the gang leader puts a katana by his neck, threatening to kill him. Afraid of the situation, Choi pees his pants. He is then bullied and forced by the gang leader to lick his own urine that splashed on his shoes. Furthermore, he's humiliated publicly, as he is forced to announce himself as a bedwetter of Ikebukuro. Shortly after, a middle-aged man, Boom-soo, approaches Choi and aids him in getting up. He fights with the gang members and knocks them down one by one with his awesome fighting skills, compelling the leader of the gang to walk away. After some time, we get to know that Boom-soo is also a martial arts expert from the same Korean city as Choi. He then takes Choi and Chun-bae to a circus where a number of Korean immigrants can be seen working together to earn their living. There, Boom-soo is respected by everyone as he is the one managing the accommodation of the Koreans and also planning to open a Korean school for their children. Just then, Choi pleads with Boom-soo to teach him his style of martial arts skills. However, Boom-soo refuses Choi's request as he has made a promise to abandon martial arts. As a result, Choi kneels outside Boom-soo's residence in the heavy rain. The scene then flashes back in time where we get to know that Boom-soo was actually the martial arts teacher of Choi in his childhood. Due to some personal reasons, Boom-soo was compelled to leave his hometown and stay low. At present, it's already morning and Choi is still kneeling down outside Boom-soo's residence, pleading to teach him martial arts. Tired of the nagging, Boom-soo finally agrees and provides him with a martial arts dress and a book on the fighting style. He further tells him that justice without power is empty, but power without justice will lead to violence. He suggests that he use his fighting skills to protect himself and others. Soon, Choi joins Boom-soo and his group and starts working as a rickshaw driver to earn a living. He also uses his free time to learn martial arts from Boom-soo. One day, Choi notices some American police officers misbehaving with a Japanese woman. Chun-bae suggests Choi to stay away from it and return home, but Choi moves forwards and faces the officers, saving the girl. Shortly after saving the girl, he becomes popular in the area with the name of Brave Tiger, the one who saves Japanese women from the perverted American officers. He also becomes closer to one of the women he saved, Yoko. In the following scene, Yakuza's men arrive at the circus and start searching for Boom-soo, aiming to take revenge for the previous embarrassment in the market. Soon, Boom-soo emerges from his residence and fights with the gang members alone. Unfortunately, he is soon overpowered and eliminated by the gang leader. When Choi and Chun-bae arrive at the place, they are taken aback to see the Korean immigrants crying and Boom-soo lying dead on the ground. The next day, Choi decides to take revenge for his master Boom-soo's death, carrying some weapons in their hands. On the other hand, the Yakuza's men can be seen ready, knowing that the immigrants will attack them anytime soon. The fight breaks out between the two groups and everyone starts throwing their punches and weapons around. Soon, one of the Korean immigrants succeeds in stabbing Yakuza, but gets beaten badly by the gang members. The commotion stops after the police arrive there to separate them. In the following scene, we see Choi packing his belongings after he made up his mind to exile himself and retreat to the Himalayas. He's doing so because he feels like he's failed to save his people. Yoko arrives there to stop him, but he remains adamant to his decision and leaves. At the mountains, Choi starts training hard to get perfection in his moves and kicks. He practices day and night in the cold weather, even while facing difficulties to survive. He makes his own training equipment and learns from the book provided to him by Boom Soo before. At first, he faces difficulties adapting to the extreme weather of the Himalayas, but after spending multiple days there, his body starts adapting and he becomes stronger. He practices the skills of breaking stones and hitting the tree trunks hard with his hands. Further, Choi practices some moves to make his body parts stronger and able to bear pain. After months of practicing and living alone in the mountains, Choi finally feels that he successfully mastered the martial arts skills taught by his master and from the book. He then runs down the mountains to the city and starts approaching the best fighters in Japan. At first, Choi enters a karate training school called Nijo Dojo. He walks inside the school in his ragged karate clothes and asks the dojo leader to allow his students to fight with him. The dojo leader teases Choi, calling him a bedwetting man before fulfilling his demand to fight with one of the students. Choi defeats more than 10 of the students, most of them with a single move. Finally, he also defeats the dojo leader and becomes the headline of the newspapers the next day. As the news of Choi being the next version of a great fighter, Miyamoto Musashi, spreads, it also reaches Kato. Kato, who is now the head of the Japan Karate Association, is frustrated with the fact that a non-Japanese fighter is defeating the best fighters in Japan. On the other hand, Choi continues to win against every fighter in Japan, including those who compete in karate, judo, ninjutsu, aikido, and kobudo. Because of his wins in every fight he takes part in, Choi has become a media sensation in Japan. Choi also meets with Yoko and reveals to her that while he fears death, he fears life as a cripple even more. Offended by Choi's victory over the Japanese fighters, Kato holds a press conference and belittles the fighting style of Choi. He further mentions that the moves used by Choi are not real Japanese martial arts moves and calls him a thug. On the other hand, the karate organization, unbeknownst to Kato, sends one of their followers to kill Choi. The assassin notices Choi in a market and walks past him, stabbing a katana into his stomach. Injured, Choi is then taken care of by Yoko till he becomes perfectly fine. One day, Choi gets a call from Chunbei, and after visiting him, he gets to know that someone is searching for him and will soon attack him if he does not accept the challenge to face Kato. After he walks out from Chunbei's place, he meets the assassin who is sent by the organization. Both of them get involved in a fight until Choi gets the upper hand and kills him. When Choi learns that the guy he killed had a wife and son, he feels terrible about his actions and follows the family down to apologize for what he has done. He approaches the assassin's wife and apologizes for killing her husband. He also offers to work and help them throughout his life. Choi hands over his martial arts uniform to the assassin's wife, swearing that he will never participate in a martial arts battle again. Although the assassin's wife does not accept Choi's apology, he continues kneeling down outside their house, pleading to accept his apology. She finally accepts his apology when he takes her son to the top of the mountain and fulfills his wish of seeing the scenery from the top. The assassin's wife then returns Choi's martial arts uniform and asks him to fight for good and become one of the best fighters in Japan. In the following scene, after getting information about Kato's challenge from Chunbei, Choi accepts the challenge and approaches them wearing his old martial arts uniform. He walks out alone to the site prepared by the organization for the epic battle between two of the best fighters. Soon, he reaches the remote site where Kato and his men can be seen waiting for him. At first, Choi fights with Kato's men and defeats them easily with a single move. Following this, Choi gets an opportunity to face Kato. Kato, on the other hand, believes that his martial arts skills will easily defeat Choi. But to his surprise, when the fight begins between the two, the new fighting style of Choi causes difficulties for Kato. Choi attacks Kato with numerous powerful kicks and punches, making him fall to the ground. Though Kato tries his best to fight back, His ankle gets broken after he's hit by multiple powerful kicks by Choi. Despite this, Kato rises up for the fight and collapses to a one-knee-down stance. Showing mercy to Kato's situation, Choi stops his punch right before an inch distance from Kato's face. With this, Kato admits his defeat and acknowledges Choi's style of fighting along with his men. After the match is over, Choi still fights with a wild bull and manages to grab its head and break its horns.